Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cultured Nerd Podcast. This week, we're going to be talking about San Diego Comic-Con 2024 and some of the biggest things that came out of it, especially what's on our title card. Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, but not as Iron Man. He's actually now Victor Von Doom, which is confusing the internet and enraging some corners of it because of reasons. But we're going to be talking about this film. We're going to be talking about the Fantastic Four stuff that they revealed, the two new Avengers films. We're going to be talking about what DC brought to the table. We'll talk about Deadpool. We'll talk about The Boys. We'll talk about Mortal Kombat, Transformers 1, and a few other things that all got dropped at San Diego Comic-Con 2024. And we're going to share our thoughts with everything because, we have plenty to say about how weird this Comic-Con was. But here we go. Here we are.
And here we are.
And here we are again. So, Comic-Con came and went. The internet is excited and divided, and we've got something to talk about.
It feels like the Hulk punched a bunch of weaklings because you listed a ton of things that happened at Comic-Con. Like two of them showed up on my radar.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. and also the Mortal Kombat stuff, because I love me some Mortal Kombat stuff.
I also want to talk about how Robert Downey Jr. is also coming back as T'Challa.
Oh, jeez Louise.
I feel like at this point, they should just do like the Downey universe and have just him as everybody, just to embrace the weirdness of it.
I've told you many times there's too many robot suits, and all they did was announce more robot suits, okay?
Yes,
so, Taylor.
Yes.
Let's talk about. Do you want to talk about the other stuff first, or do you want to talk about Hall H MCU 2024?
Because I feel like on the list that I organized it in, because I feel like this is the best way to do it. So they put out some Thunderbolt stuff. Thunderbolt footage came and went. The fact that nobody is talking about it is what it is.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Okay. Are we talking about Phase 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they just trying to ignore as much as Phase 4 as possible? Because when I look at the movies they showed, Taylor, it feels like old stuff. The new Captain America movie is just like an action movie. Like Bourne Identity. If your wife likes Bourne Identity, take her to this movie. I feel like it's been a while since they've made that type of Marvel movie.
So let's just kind of get talking about it. So first off, let's talk about the first footage of the Thunderbolts came out. I want to drop the brightness on this side screen.
I wish I was excited for the Thunderbolts, Taylor. I've watched all of the shows leading to this, and I hope that this does something with all of these puzzle pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there's not a lot that they showed some footage. They showed a bunch of the actors in play. They confirmed that Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp is a member of the Thunderbolts. They confirmed that Taskmaster from Black Widow is also coming back. They still don't understand what the asterisk means on the Thunderbolts title because it says Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Now, a lot of people are assuming that it's just going to be Thunderbolts or it's going to become the Dark Avengers or something like that. Or they don't know what's going on with it. They have so many different thoughts.
So do you think so the Thunderbolts come and do a mission, and because Captain America doesn't want to go under the government makes a fake Avengers team with the Suicide Squad of Avengers?
It's fully possible because what they're basically saying is that the clip, the word on the street is the clip was pretty cool. Lots of action, lots of excitement. A lot of people compared the action to like Winter Soldier style action with a lot of gritty hand-to-hand combat. But they're also saying that it felt a lot like James Gunn's Suicide Squad. So kind of that vibe.
Which means that one of those characters you mentioned gets shot in the head. I think Taskmaster.
I'm assuming that they're going to kill Bucky off. That's my assumption because they have just I guess, mishandled Bucky a lot. I mean, he's supposed to be the next in line to become Cap, but then they skipped over that whole thing. So why not just add more disrespect to the Bucky Barnes fans and just shoot him in the face in the movie?
I feel bad. I don't think the MCU has ever given Bucky Barnes his due.
No, he hasn't. They've misused him in Civil War. They misused him in his own show. And here we are again with Bucky Barnes somehow involved in this scene.
I can't believe, is Bucky not in the Captain America Brave New World movie? Why? That whole TV show was them together. I assumed that's why he's allowed to be Captain America, is Bucky is kind of quietly being like, I follow Cap and I say he's Cap.
No, I don't think anyone in the government wants Bucky alive, so I'm assuming that they don't care. But we do know that his pilot sidekick is the new Falcon in Captain America Brave New World. He's got his brown and green Falcon outfit. That's a thing.
Okay.
But they also confirmed that the bodies of the Celestials are made out of adamantium. So there's a big plot point involving that big adamantium-filled dead Celestial sitting in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, great. So we now have a finite amount of adamantium that we can make tanks or sentinels or who knows what they're going to make.
Well, I mean, the Celestial's body is the size of like a small continent, so I think they have plenty to go around now.
Sure.
They did show off some footage for Fantastic Four and officially titled it Fantastic Four First Steps. The presentation showed off Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss Bachrach, I think is how you pronounce his last name. There was some some very quick footage, very 60s style space outfits, them in a cafeteria. There's even a scene where they're on like the dating game and the Thing is in a suit on the dating game, which was a little weird. The best part of the footage was actually the shot of the Galactus, where you see a very big close-up of his face coming up on a side of a skyscraper, and he looks fantastic.
Do you really? We're talking about this bigger umbrella, and what this umbrella was of movies was different pre the writer's strike and also pre Kang the Conqueror being canceled. Kang the Canceled,
yep.
So now that we have this, do you think this is going to play into those Avengers movies, or do you think they just
100%? And this is actually why. So with this new Fantastic Four film, we do know that it is set on an alternate Earth. It has a whole different spiel. And that the big reveal is that Dr. Doom would be a factor at the end of the movie. So they're going to set up his existence at the end of this movie, and then he is going to appear in the next two Avengers films.
So is this how they're going to justify that they didn't make a world with the Fantastic Four in it, so they're going to bring them from another place? So any of these characters that aren't here, they're just in a parallel timeline, and we'll bring them in.
They've been doing that already. I mean, that's what they've been doing with the X-Men. They're not going to. They've already established that the X-Men don't exist in the proper MCU. So let's just sideswipe a bunch of the good characters off of another universe.
Taylor, we'll talk about that in the next episode.
We'll talk about that in detail in the Deadpool episode.
Okay.
Deadpool and Wolverine. But the big announcement is that the Russo bros are officially coming back to direct the next two Avengers films. First one, Avengers Doomsday, which is officially replacing the Kang Dynasty. That Kang Dynasty project is dead, and now it is Avengers Doomsday. And just like everyone assumed, it is Avengers Doomsday where the superhero team fights Doomsday from DC.
Taylor, you're coming in with these jokes. What are you doing? I didn't know you were coming in hot with these things. I can write some.
So, Avengers Secret Wars is going to be the culmination of this whole story arc, and word is at the end of Secret Wars, the new proper MCU reboot is going to come into effect.
Okay. I don't want to talk about Secret Wars yet. Let's talk about this Doctor Doom movie.
Let's talk about this Doctor Doom thing. So up on stage, the Russo brothers said, what are we going to do but bring the best actor of all time to be Doctor Doom? And they announced it was Robert Downey Jr. Somehow, in the Marvel logic is that if Kang is filled with legal issues, the only way we can damage control this is to end the MCU with where we brought it, and then we do just evil Tony Stark. So again, the MCU's greatest flaw of having Tony Stark being the root of all evil is now, again, Tony Stark is the root of all evil.
Isn't it crazy that that Robert Downey Jr. lived long enough to see himself become a hero and become a villain? Like,
Yeah.
if you live,
My only hope is that at the end of this, that in Secret Wars, that you have good Robert Downey Jr. fighting bad Robert Downey Jr. That would be the only thing that makes me happy is if they bring back another variant of real Tony fighting
100%,
Victor Von Doom Tony.
100%. I before we get to that, okay. So do you think they asked everybody in Hollywood, hey, do you know what to do with this franchise? And everybody said, I have no idea. And the Russo brothers were the only body with the idea? Or do you think they went hat in hand to them and said, hey, we really fucked up not hiring you guys again. Will you come back and will you come back and bring your magic?
Maybe. I don't know, man. Maybe they just messed it up because they didn't know what they were doing. But I don't know. I still, there was so many funny rhetorics online about like how the Russo brothers failed every movie they made after Endgame, so that they come crawling back to the MCU to save the MCU. I thought that was a little on the nose. Also, once the Russos left the MCU, most of the MCU movies started to fail too. So I don't know. I'm still at a bit of a loss with their decisions to not only bring the Russos back to be the only Avengers directors in the MCU, apparently, to also bring Robert Downey Jr. back as the main villain. Instead of just recasting Kang and making him a bigger threat, they're just giving us an evil variant of Iron Man.
Even though that's not true, right? It's not going to be that. That's what the normal movie-going audience, it's going to feel like evil Iron Man, right? Like, that's what it's going to, he's going to, do you think he'll do a Doom accent? Do you think he's going to come on screen doing like a weird?
I hope so. I hope it's something ridiculous that everyone is like, guys, this isn't right. They should just get a real Eastern European. What's wrong with Mads Mikkelsen? Why can't he just be Dr. Doom in that universe? But this actually came from a week and a half ago or so. Jeff Schneider of the Scooper, Jeff Schneider, made a comment saying, speaking of Dr. Doom, there's still no word yet on his casting in Fantastic Four. And as insiders denied my inquiry about Robert Downey Jr., who I was told might come back as an alternate universe Tony Stark who becomes Dr. Doom instead of Iron Man, it seems far-fetched, yes, but I figure that there's, if there was any hope of Downey coming back, they'd have to do a new wrinkle for him to play. So for now, we continue to wait. That's what he dropped a couple weeks ago. And now we have this announcement, which is actually irritating a lot of fans online because they wanted the proper Dr. Doom.
But the movie-going audience knows this Tony Stark story. They really are invested in that arc. Why not allow them to invest in the idea of this character? Because guess what? He'll be different in 3 movies because
that's my theory. My theory is that the first time we see him in Fantastic Four, it's going to just be Dr. Doom. We're not going to see Tony. We're going to see Dr. Doom. Green cloak, mask, all that spiel, saying something along the lines of, if there's a multiverse out there, I'll bring Doom to it, or something stupid. Okay? And that's how they're going to tease him. The beginning first 20 minutes of Doomsday, they're going to establish that this is how this Tony Stark variant exists. And in the comics, you have some options. First off, throughout the comics, Dr. Doom has physically traded bodies with heroes 4, 5, 6, 7 times. He actually has it as a major plot MacGuffin for a lot of his stories, where it's called the body transferal ray. He has transformed himself into Daredevil, Mr. Fantastic, Sue Storm once. He's transformed himself into a handful of other heroes and eventually just had everything taken away. So it's fully possible.
Literally just explained how Tony Stark is going to be Dr. Doom. You just explained it to me. That to me is the easiest of all of them.
That is the easiest, because especially in the What If comic, Iron Man, Demon in the Armor, the comic literally says Victor Von Doom swapped bodies with Tony Stark in college, and trapped in his rival's body, Tony Stark swears revenge and begins a year-long quest to destroy Doom Stark Universal Company. So the whole Demon in the Armor storyline is literally Dr. Doom and Tony Stark switching bodies. And then lastly, we have the infamous Iron Man, the last picture there, where Dr. Doom basically raids Tony Stark's closet and becomes Dr. Doom to Iron Man. So you have plenty to work from here. Most of the the internet has already seen that Marvel has announced that he is playing Victor Von Doom. So my honest to God theory is that this is going to be a body swapping or just a really lazy variant explanation.
I wonder. So if they're going to do the body swap, and they're going to do, when do they do it in the first movie? Do they do it in the cave when the suit is done and we see like Tony crush the heads of Al-Qaeda and then we see something? Or do you think because the idea of him stealing the suit and turning it Dr. Doom, that's what we're taught. That's the body switch to me. He's going to make it look the way he wants it to look.
So my honest theory is that he, the MCU Fantastic Four, because that movie takes place in the 60s, they are going to get lost in some sort of thing and zip out of their universe. Fast forward to Dr. Doom trying to figure out how to get out of his universe, and they're going to have old Dr. Doom see younger Tony Stark come up into power and then switch his body, and then old Dr. Doom now becomes young Tony Stark and then goes forward that way. And that's his way of saying, I have existed for 70 years and now I'm young again in a body of a very rich man with resources.
Okay, Taylor. Well, thank you for putting that together for me.
That's how I would accept it.
Yep.
That's legitimately how I would. I know they're not doing that. I know they're going to disappoint me, but in my brain, that's how they do it, and it works. So,
I mean, it very well could just be Tony Stark. That his dad is the leader of, you know what I mean? Like, could they just do, oh, your dad's the leader of Lafayette, like, or whatever the name? What's the Doom Nation?
Oh my God, I just forgot it. Latveria.
Latveria. I thought it was something like that. Okay.
Yeah. So that's probably
now question
something weird.
So where does that? So is the Fantastic Four movie then the setup for
Fantastic Four movie is going to end setting up Doomsday?
Okay, and then in Doomsday
we get the backstory to Dr. Doom, and then Secret Wars is the big final battle for everything.
Okay, who's on the Avengers? And I feel like what happens if the Russo brothers, I feel like the Russo brothers are going to do everything that they did before. So a ton of people are going to die. Victor Von Doom is going to win in his movie. We're going to see him wipe out.
Yeah, I see Doom going on a multiversal killing spree and just going through and conquering universes and then trying to get to the sacred timeline.
People are so down. Do you think people see this movie twice if he like chokes out Miss Marvel, like just chokes her out and rips her head off? Like, is that what they're gonna do? He's gonna kill half of them.
He's got to kill everybody, and then that's when the Secret Wars come into play.
And explain they've done Secret Wars a couple of times, right? But in broad terms, what is the Secret War?
So in broad terms, the Secret Wars has always been a story between Reed Richards and Dr. Doom. And it's kind of funny how like there was almost a chance where we didn't get that. That's where we were like, oh, we're just going to have Kang initiate the Secret Wars. But it's essentially where Dr. Doom is kind of going on this multiversal killing spree, and he's trying to collapse parallel universes and create a universe in his own image. And that's one of the different variations of the Secret Wars. But essentially, it's kind of like the Crisis on Infinite Universes Marvel version, where you have all the different timelines, all the different crossovers, and then it just becomes a multiversal war.
In the first Avengers movie, we saw them grow, and then by Endgame, we saw there's armies of them, taking on right. There was so many of them. How many Avengers are there now? Like, there's going to be like 30, right? Like, Shang-Chi's got to get his head ripped off. We got to see all these people die.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of play with a lot of these different characters that we haven't really seen in a while. Because, I mean, we know that they said that Avengers 5 is not going to include most of Phase 4 and 5's characters. It's going to be a very different story. So Doomsday is not going to be the big crossover we're expecting, but Secret Wars is essentially the MCU endgame.
Okay.
So Doomsday is probably going to have a handful of things but we're probably not going to see Shang-Chi. We're probably not going to see Moon Knight. We're probably not going to see She-Hulk. A lot of those characters we're going to just not see. But I could very much see, I don't think we'll even see the Guardians anymore, or the new Guardians. I see the new Guardians of the Galaxy being in Secret Wars, but not in Doomsday.
Does Edward Norton show up as the Incredible Hulk?
I don't know. They had a chance to do that again in Deadpool. They didn't, so I don't know.
Does Tom Cruise show up as Iron Man?
Wouldn't that be a great twist where like the prime Iron Man from the multiverse comes out as Tom Cruise and he's like, guess what, Robert? I'm the new Iron Man.
It's so funny because I'm thinking about it in that way. We also just might get the variants people want.
Yeah. We'll probably get a lot. This might just be a cameo fest of variants that we want to see in film and then just never will see them again.
Do we get into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales?
Probably not in Doomsday. Maybe Secret Wars.
Okay.
But with all that news,
does Thunderbolts have anything to do with any of this?
I'm assuming they will come into play, or the surviving members. But given how soon these movies are, they're just 2 years away. So that means Marvel's got to really figure out what the hell they're doing with all these loose ends in the next year and a half.
It also means that these movies are probably going to be filmed back to back, like probably Lord of the Rings. This will probably be a year-long shoot.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a lot of that. I also see them doing a lot of side filming in between. So we'll probably get a lot of random side projects in between that year that just wrap up a bunch of those storylines or lead into Secret Wars proper.
Okay.
So other things that happened at Comic-Con, the fan screening for Deadpool and Wolverine actually surprised everybody. They put it out there and said, hey, guess what? Watch the movie. Then they came out and brought a bunch of the secret cast members on stage to talk about the film. And we'll talk about that in our spoiler discussion. The Boys is getting a new spinoff. It's a prequel set in the 50s or 60s. My assumption, based on who the main characters are for this show, we're seeing Stormfront and Soldier Boy as the main characters in this new show called Vought Rising. Wouldn't it be just kind of par of the course for the Boys for them to reveal that Homelander's mom is Stormfront and that all that fiddly stuff that they were doing is just absolutely disgusting?
Yeah, she's molesting him. Maybe. Also, I feel like
we're going for the Boys.
But the Boys will show us the World War II that we never got to see with Captain America. We saw a fun World War II. We're gonna see like
the gross one.
Soldier Boy like liberating camps and like throwing dudes in ovens. It's gonna be super intense.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat announced its season 1 pass, which is giving us Cyrax and Sector, along with a brand new take on Noob Saibot and the fun DLC characters of Ghostface, T-1000, and Conan the Barbarian.
T-1000, that actor at that age and that look is the thing of my nightmares. I can't tell the audience how much we watched Terminator 2. I am so excited for that Terminator to be in a movie. Also, the Scream guy is basically just a college kid. Like,
I really hope they play it up. Like, just make it just ridiculous.
He doesn't have supernatural powers. He's a guy who rents from movies from Blockbuster.
Yeah, he's just a guy who knows movies too well, and his only superpower is that he was like 5 dudes all dressed up simultaneously. That was the only thing.
He was Shaggy the whole time. Spoilers.
Yeah, and what did they call him in that one movie, Game Night? Poor man's Johnny Depp.
That guy is a poor man's Johnny Depp.
I think he's actually fantastic. He actually did a very good job on that show Jericho that I loved a lot. That never finished, but is very applicable to like the world the last 15 years. And then surprisingly, Transformers 1 had its first theatrical reactions for a bunch of test audiences, and people are loving it to pieces. So despite the fact that I'm not happy with its existence, apparently a lot of people are enjoying it.
I'm great. I hope we're proven wrong. I will let you know. I drove past the big billboard on La Cienega in Los Angeles, and the billboard did not make me want to go see it in the theaters.
Yeah. I'm just still bitter about like them unceremoniously just not including Peter Cullen at all. Like, he's Optimus, and now they're talking about making this Transformers 1 project into possibly a trilogy, and again, a trilogy without Peter Cullen as Optimus just doesn't work. Especially when you saw the new Comic-Con trailer, which they had Steve Buscemi as Starscream. I thought that was pretty cool casting. But his young Optimus voice Chris Hemsworth's young Optimus voice and his Optimus Prime voice just sounds like I'm just trying to speak a little deeper, and it didn't really do it for me. So I don't know. But as we start to wrap up our short episode, on the DC side of things, James Gunn revealed the new DC Studios logo, and it's a throwback to the pre-changes of 2005 and onward. So we're actually getting back to the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s of DC's official logo.
I love that logo. I didn't know they weren't using that. I love that logo.
They brought the logo back for film. Jim Lee also quietly confirmed that they're also bringing it back for comics, which is kind of cool. The Penguin dropped a brand new trailer. Trailer looks fantastic. Shows off a lot of fun stuff about some plot details. Apparently, Sophia Falcone is already the Hangman, and that was a big plot point for Dark Victory and Onward. She also spent some time in Arkham, so she's a little on the crazy side. There was a reference made. Matt Reeves, when he was showing off this stuff, said that he's going to start filming Batman Part 2 early next year. So we're thinking about January, February, it's going to start filming. And he said that the Penguin is going to also be featured in Batman Part 2, as well as the injuries he gains over the course of this show. So they made reference to some injury he gets. So my guess is that they fully cobble his leg, or he loses an eye and has to have like a monocle or something, where they just make him a little bit more penguiny. But they did officially announce that it's September 19th, so not too long until the show starts. And trailer looks fantastic. Looks like Sopranos in the Batman universe. So just lots of fun. They also showed off a fun trailer for the Creature Commandos. Animation looked fun. The trailer looked good. I mean, they called themselves Task Force M.
Looks great. It is another Suicide Squad.
And it is. No, it really is.
It really is a Suicide Squad.
And they actually joked about that in the trailer, where they said that Waller had Task Force X shut down because of recent events, and she is now uncommissioning the Creature Commandos, aka Task Force M. And the reason why she's able to do it is because these people cannot die, and she shows them on screen being electrocuted to death and just getting back up. So she said they're unstoppable. That's why we use them. So she puts General Rick Flag Sr. in charge of this team. Speaking of Rick Flag, one of the new directors for this Peacemaker Season 2 accidentally let slip that Joel Kinnaman is returning as Rick Flag for Peacemaker Season 2, which now people are wondering, is he not dead in the DCU?
He's not dead. He's coming back. He's going to be in all the movies. That's for sure.
So we're going to have a father-son Flag team thing happening, which is going to be cool. Funny enough, the actors who play the father and son are only like 10 years apart. One just looks much older than the other. So
make it happen. Let's do this.
Yeah. But on that note, this was our random Comic-Con rundown of this week, because the internet is still slightly divided, and by slightly I mean very, very divided, over if they like the idea of Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Victor Von Doom. And I mean, like, once he got out, they sucked him back in, and he's going to make another $1 billion off of these movies.
Let them cook. Yeah. Most of the magic of Robert Downey Jr. is stuff that he improvised in the room as this character. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and see what they're doing, because everyone said we want what you used to be doing, and it seems like they went and got all the same people.
Yeah, they really did. Their way of dealing with the Kang situation was to quietly remove Kang from the MCU in that small throwaway line that was added at the end of Loki Season 2, where the TVA has been tasked to hunt down the variants before they become a problem, which I guess that's how they're dealing with Kang.
How they're doing it. Okay.
Yeah. But on that note, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you want to help us keep the lights on, and you want to help support and help us do what we do, head over to the patreon.com/theculturednerd. For those of you who are sitting at home and have your phones out, scan that QR code. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this episode. Tell us what you thought about Comic-Con. Tell us what you thought about the announcements. Do you like Robert Downey Jr. coming back? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Do you have mixed feelings? I want to know your emotional outbursts of positivity or anger. I would love to know what it is. Scan that QR code, head over to our socials, and tell us what you think. I'm I'm always here to listen, and I have been your host, Taylor Murphy, and as always, my co-host, my as Michael always put it, my heterosexual life partner, Michael Santel, is with me as well. So thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode where we do a spoiler discussion on Deadpool and Wolverine, because apparently some people don't want me talking about spoilers. So I'm going to give them a choice by making 2 episodes. So thank you again, and we will see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.